My God, well done. Thank you all, my friends. And the latest from the Falklands is the Argentinians are getting their own back in the Irish. They've taken the key off the top of the corned beef tins. It's the way I tell it, isn't it? I'm too bloody good for this dumping. Well done. Is that a sponsored walk? Now, when I was up the back, the sound wasn't too good, and I wouldn't like you to miss anything. Can you hear me at the back there? Well, how the hell do you know what I'm saying, you stupid bastard? Jesus Christ. Must be an Irish crew up the back. He said, is your daughter a virgin, Mick? He said, not yet. Can you turn off any of that noise there? What is that noise that's going on at the moment? We'll turn the fan off then. They can all die of cancer. That's lovely. That's better. Isn't that better now? Well done. Frank Carson, news at 10 at Carson. Would you pull your skirt down? That was very embarrassing for me. Actually, I stopped a fella in the middle of Sutton. I said, could you show me the way, please, to Coulson? I said, excuse me, could you show me the way to Coulson, Jimmy? He says, how do you know my name's Jimmy? I said, I guess. He said, well, bloody well guess for Coulson. And I said to this fella in London, who's the best comedian you have in England? He said, Ken Dodd. I said, where is he? He said, he's right at the Palladium doing his show. Well, there was a large crowd coming out, and I said to this fella, what's the comedian Ken Dodd like? He said, he's the funniest comedian in Britain. I said, have you ever heard of an Irish comedian called Frank Carson? He says, he stinks. I said, well, I'm Frank Carson. He says, no, I'm Ken Dodd. And a fellow stopped me at the front gate. He said, aren't you Frank Carson? I said, yes. He said, can I top you for a fiver? I said, for a fiver, you could hit me with a bloody brick. That's a bloody cracker, that, eh? Even I laugh, and I hear them every bloody night. And there's a wee Indian restaurant. There's a wee Indian restaurant there in Bamstead. That's a joke on its own. And I walked in, there's a big notice up. It said, whatever sandwich you order, we have it. Well, I thought it'd be funny. I said to the wee Indian, give me a rhinoceros knacker sandwich. He was back in 2 minutes. He said, I'm very sorry I cannot give you that. I said, he said, we've no bread. That's a bloody cracker, eh? I'm too bloody good for this dumping. Fellow walked into the doctor. He said, could you give me something to make me sweat? He said, yes, I'll sign you off. Come here, lads, come here. Could you laugh a bit quicker? The nun was speeding along the motorway and the big policeman pulled her in. He said, Sister Bridget, that's the 6th time this month I've caught you speeding. And he starts undoing his fly. She says, oh no, not the breathalyzer again. That's a bloody crack, eh? And I cleaned that one up. She says, what was that? All went green. Somebody put an Irish shilling in the meter. That's nice. That's lovely. You're going to fade this bloody suit. What about the Irishman was on that program Mastermind? And Mackety Mackison says, are you comfortable? He said, pass. He said, who was born in a stable and had thousands of followers? He said, Red Room. He said, in Greek mythology, who was half animal and half man? He said, Buffalo Bill. He said, name 2 days of the week beginning with T. He said, today and tomorrow. That's a bloody cracker, isn't it? A great bloody comedian, mate. What about the Irishman who was struck with lightning and thought he was having his photograph taken? Oh, the Irish took a war team that were disqualified for pushing. Well, the Irishman had a leg transplant and he's well, he rejected it. The tears are running down my legs. What about the Irishman cut the end of the Durex because it was too long for him? That's a bloody cracker, isn't it? That's a bloody good one. Fella caught a bloke in bed with his wife and he pulled out his shotgun. He said, I'm going to blow your knackers off. He said, oh, give me a chance. He said, okay, swing them. That's a cracker, isn't it? Eh? What about the two Irishmen playing snooker for an hour and a half and hadn't potted the ball? He said, jetted Mick, we'll have to cheat. Take the triangle off. And I just come back from Northern Ireland last week. My mother still lives in Belfast, you know. She's a rear gunner in a milk float. Hey, the violence is bloody out. Did you read the paper yesterday? There was an IRA man robbed a bank and he was mugged on the way to the getaway car. There was a fellow driving through Belfast. He had a 400-pound bomb in his lap. He told you, Jerry, take it easy, Mick. The thing's liable to go off. He said, not to worry, there's another one in the boot. And you can have an Irish abortion. Did you hear? An Irish abortion. Only there's a 12-month waiting list. Do you know it was the Irish who invented the lavatory seat? But it was the English that put the hole in. Bridget Flanagan said to the parish priest, Father, can I use the pill? He said, of course not. You know the rules of the church. She says, what will I do? He said, you'll have to use the rhythm method. She says, where would I get a Cayley band that Fellow said to me, Paul, why is it I have 17 children and you have none? He said, I use a safe period. He said, when's that? He said, when you're on the night shift. And I stopped the fella in the street. I said, pardon me, your collar's back to front. He says, I am a father. I said, I'm a father of 3 and my collar's not back to front. He says, I am a father of thousands. I said, in that case, your trousers you want back to front. And I just come back from Australia early this year. I was in one of these jumbos and the fellow walks in behind me, shoved a bloody big shotgun and the pilot's here and said, take me to Sydney. The pilot says, I'm going to Sydney. He says, I know, but I've been hijacked twice and I'm taking no bloody chances. And there was an old priest beside me. He says to me, are you nervous in an aircraft? I said, very nervous, Reverend Paul. He said, have a nice glass of wine. I said, that's very strong wine, isn't it? He said, the Pope drinks that. I said, Christ, no wonder they carry him about in a chair. I was coming through the customs officer said, what's in that bottle? I said, it's a bottle of holy water from Lourdes. I've been on a pilgrimage. He put it in his head. He said, that's a bottle of gin. I said, glory be to God, another miracle. Well, they're very friendly, these Australians. This big Aussie says to me, how would you like to go to a midnight barbecue on Bondi Beach? I said, that's very kind of you. What do we do? So we get there about 12 o'clock, bit of kissing and cuddling, have a nude swim, grill the old steaks into the bushes. I said, I'm all for that. I says, who's going? He said, just you and me. he was a puff. Because every time I kissed him, he closed his eyes. I didn't stay long. Only a week. I don't know anything about puffs, but I slept with a fellow that did. Well, I went to one of these strip clubs. There was a stripper on called Alexandra the Great. She was fantastic. She finished up with her clothes on, the audience was naked. And she had a 44-inch bust. Both of them. So it was a hunch front. She said, I would like someone from the audience to help me with my act. Buenas noches, señoras and señores, trabiendo fonse, es calamesquide. She was from Kingswood. Well, there's always a bloody idiot in the audience. You know, a fellow wants to grab the mic and say he's always pissed out of his brain. He's a bloody... This idiot got up and said, put your hand in my chest, senor. Well, he put his head in her chest. She went... His head went... It was bloody disgusting, honestly. I couldn't hear for a week. I was on the bus in London. The conductor shouted, George Street, Thomas Street, William Street, Elizabeth Street, Thomas Street, and there were two Irishmen in front of me. One turned to the other. He said, not near time you were getting off me. The other fellow said, sit there till your name's called. Well, I had the wife along with me, and she's a bit on the big side. She told the doctor she had a hole in the heart, and he found out it was a polo mint in her pajama jacket. She happened to get off the bus, and the bus knocked her down. I went up to the driver. I said, pardon me, do you know you only have to knock on my wife down? Had you not enough room to go round her? He said, I had enough room, I had enough petrol. Had to bring her in for a drink. That's where I met the concert secretary. As soon as he said me, barman, 2 Irish whiskies, 2 Guinness for Frank and his wife. Make them feel at home. As soon as the bill came up, what did he do? Dash into the gents before he'd pay for it. Of course, I wouldn't let him in. They say his father came from Aberdeen. He had a heart attack, throwing a penny to the children. The string broke. I knew a fellow was so mean he broke into the house next door to gas himself. That never gets a laugh. I don't know what the hell to tell it for. Do you know the meanest man in the world actually came from Donegal? There you are, made you famous. He swallowed a £20 note, and every time he went to the lavatory, he held a raffle. I bought £1 for the ticket. Well, there was a fellow at the bar said, hey, Frank, lend us £1. I said, I can't hear you. He said, lend me £1. I said, I can't hear you. He said, lend me £1. I said, I can't hear you. This fellow beside me said, excuse me, I can hear him. I said, well, you lend him £1. Well, there was a wee Irishman beside me, 4'6", this bloody big wimpy McAlpine foreman coming, 13'11" and a quarter. Former lifeguard for Butlins. Couldn't swim, but by Christ, he could paddle out a hell of a bit. Well, he had this wee Irishman, an awful dig, knocked him on the ground. The wee Irishman jumped up and said, did you do that on purpose, or were you joking? He should have done it on purpose. He said, I'm glad to hear that. I don't like jokes like that. Well, Murphy came into the pub from the village on his arse and cart. He parked his arse and cart outside the pub, walked in, drank 29 whiskies, staggered out, and his ass was painted green. He walked back in the bar and said, which one of you fellas painted my ass green? This big fella said, I did. What about it? He said, it's ready for the second coat. Well, this fella says to me, what about a game of darts? I said, I'm not much good at darts. He said, well, I've never thrown darts at a dartboard, but I'll play for a pint of lager and a quid. I said, well, I'll pass an hour. You start off, he threw triple 20, triple 20, triple... I said, just a second. I said, Hank, I'm a bloody idiot. I thought you said you'd never thrown darts. He said, I didn't say that. What I said was, I'd never thrown darts at a dartboard. Well, I said, where the hell did you learn to throw darts again? He said, well, if I set a darts at home, and during the summer, I pinned the flies to the wall. Well, I said, don't you get the blood spliced up the wallpaper? He said, no, I pinned them by the legs. Well, there was a big Alsatian dog come in. They'd done a big whoopsie on the floor. Big Richard III. Well, I didn't see it. I was going up to the board and I went, whoop. Well, the big Dublin man didn't see it either. He went, whoop. I says, I've just done that. He says, you dirty bastard. Do you know there's a very exclusive club in Johannesburg where they play dominoes, and the spots on the dominoes are real diamonds. And there was an Irishman playing there one night and he stole a double blank. Well, I came outside and there was a blind man standing and he lifted his guide dog and twirled around his head. I said, is everything all right? He said, no, I'm just having a look around. Well, I stood in the queue for the cinema. That film was on. I'm sure you've seen it. Jaws. There was an Irishman in front of me at the pay box and he asked for a seat in the shallow end. Well, when I got inside, there was a fella lying across 4 seats. I said, hey, you're lying across my seat. He said, I said, pardon? Hey! I said, what's your name? He says, Charlie Brown. I said, where have you come from? He said, the balcony. Well, I had a lovely seat up the front. This fella comes up, he says, move over. I said, move over what? I said, I paid £3.15 for the seat. It's up the front where I can see everything and hear everything, and I'm not getting out of the seat for you or anybody else. He said, well, that's all right. When the organ comes up, you play. Well, I went up to the hospital to see a friend of mine, and the surgeon walked in. He said to him, I've got good news and bad news. He said, give me the bad news first. He said, we've taken off the wrong leg. He said, what's the good news? He said, your bad leg's getting better. Well, there was a wee Chinaman up the top of the ward, and the Good Samaritan I walks up. I said, it's the Chinese New Year. Get well soon and a Happy New Year. He said, Hong Song Mong Nong Plong Kwai Wow. I said, well, I don't understand the language, but get well soon and a Happy New Chinese Year. He said, Hong Song Mong Nong Plong Kwai Wow. And he died. Well, I walked into the Chinese restaurant. They called this wee chink up. It's a tiddlywink. I said, could you translate this into English, please? Hong Song Mong Nong Plong Kwai Wow. He said, yes, it means you're standing on my oxygen tube. Maggie Murphy was singing in the front row of the choir when she overbalanced and fell. She was hurtling down into the middle of the church, and the leg of her knickers caught one of the rafters. And she went swinging up and down. And the parish priest said, if any man turns round to look at that unfortunate woman, may the Lord strike him blind. And Riley turns to Flanagan and says, I think I'll risk one eye. I got a bloody million there. The phone rang in the middle of the night. Murphy jumps out of bed. He said, that's the voice. Is that Dublin 2222? I said, no, this is Dublin 2222. Just, he said, I'm sorry for getting you out of bed. Oh, I said, not to worry, sure. I had to come down and answer the phone anyway. That's what I love this over here. Very great comedian, me. Murphy and his pal playing bingo. The caller said, Kelly's Eye, number 1. He said, you got that, Mick? Halfway there, 45. You've got that, Mick. Toby Shop, blind 90. You've got to say, why the hell did you mark your own bloody card? He said, I can't, it's full up. Really hear that one, really hear. I love this one. Two fellas out in the Arctic. One said, by God, it was cold last night. He says, cold? He said, I had a wee and it froze. He said, I had to break it off and throw it over the hedge. The other fellow said, I wakened up this morning, there was a block of ice in my ass. He said, I put it in the radiator, and a half an hour later it went... You'll not hear that on Stars on Sunday. Have you do it with the last one? Irishman broken down on the motorway and another Irish car pulls in. He said, right, Mick, we're Irishmen together here in this strange country. What's wrong with you? He said, I've ran out of petrol. He said, right, follow me, I have a full tank. The officer said, men, when you see a brown and yellow snake, they're deadly dangerous. Grab it by the tail and go, brown yellow, brown yellow, brown yellow, brown yellow, and snap the head off. Murphy was brought back in a stretcher, torn to pieces. The brown and yellow snakes had done it. Just as I grabbed him by the tail of it, brown yellow, brown yellow, brown yellow, brown yellow. When I got to the top, he was a bloody tiger. So the voice from heaven said to the Corinthians, do you want the commandments? What are they? Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. Oh no, Corinthians love killing and stealing to the Romans. Do you want the commandments? What are they? Thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. You're joking. Hey, you down there, you with the glasses, what's your name? Moses. What tribe do you belong to? To the Jews. Do you want the commandments? How much are they? Nothing. Give us 10. Irishman jumped into the taxi at Lime Street Station in Liverpool. Taxi driver said, are you any good at conundrums, Mick? He said, what are they, sir? He said, brothers and sisters, I have none, but that man's father's my father's son. Who is it? He said, I don't know, sir. He said, it's myself. Gets back to Dublin, he met his pal. He said, Flanagan, are you any good at Canbandra and Dundrins? He said, what are they? He said, brothers and sisters, I have none, but that man's father's my father's son. Who is it? He said, is it yourself? He said, no, it's a taxi driver I met at Lime Street Station. Murphy said to his pal, Mick, there's none of these English girls who'll dance with me. What's wrong? He said, I have to tell you. It's your feet. They stink. Look at the steam coming through the lace holes. We will you change your bloody socks? You come back in early, he said, I've changed me socks and they still won't dance. He said, where's the pair you took off? He didn't have in my pocket. Yeah, that's what I love it. The mouse said to the elephant in the jungle, what about a game of jungle billiards? The elephant said, how do you play it? The mouse said, if I do something you don't do, it means I potted the red, so it's my turn again. He said, well, you know the game. You start off. He went up the elephant's trunk, through the inside, out its backside, and said, I've potted the red, it's my turn again. He said, go ahead. He went up the elephant's trunk, through the inside, the elephant threw its trunk over its head, stuck it up its ass, and said, you're snookered. That's a cracker, isn't it? Video this one, I love it so. Video this one. Murphy walks into the scrapyard. He said, pardon me, sir, would you have a door for a 30 hundredweight van? He said, I have. How much are they, sir? He said, they're £5. He said, they're only £3 in that scrapyard down the road. He said, well, why didn't you buy one there? He said, I had none. He said, well, when we have none, ours is £3. He says, fair enough, I'll come back when you have none. An old tramp walked into the doctor's and he opened the surgery door. The doctor says, Jesus Christ, oh Christ, you stink. Jesus, what a punk. What the hell? Oh Christ. So he went to the doctor down the street, opened the door, and the doctor says, Jesus Christ, oh Christ, what a punk. Jesus, you stink. What the hell? He said, that's what the other doctor said. He said, what did you come to me for? He said, I wanted a second opinion. We didn't hear this one, Kerry. I love this one. We didn't hear this one. The officer said, Murphy? He said, yes, sir. He said, go down to the pigeon loft. There's a very important message in from brigade headquarters concerning our strategic withdrawal. Go down to the pigeon loft and bring back the message from the pigeon. He said, right, sir. 10 minutes later, Murphy came back and said, sir, I brought back the message, sir, from the pigeon, sir. He said, all right, Murphy. What was the message? He says, two Irishmen building a chimney 600 foot high and they're putting on the last brick. Flanagan said, Jesus, Mick, we've made an awful blunder. We've read the plans upside down. This should have been a well. Fellow walking down the road, he sees the largest funeral he's ever seen in his life. There's hundreds of men at this funeral. Up the front is a bloody big Alsatian dog with a steel muzzle and big chains, and it's pulling this security man along. He says, pardon me, that is the largest funeral. He said, there must be 400 men at that. The fellow says, 400? There's 617 men. I've just counted the last 4 men that joined. Jesus, he says, that's a lot. He said, is it some great celebrity or a general or a footballer or some great sport? He says, no, in actual fact, it's my wife. Oh, he says, I'm sorry to hear. I'm a married man myself. It must be terrible losing your wife. He said, that's the 4th wife I've lost in 17 months. Jesus, was it some disease or an accident? He said, no. Did you see that Alsatian dog up the front? He said, yes. He says, well, every time I come in late from work, my wife started to nag. And if I had a few drinks, she started to nag. And that dog couldn't stick the nagging. And it mauled him to death. 4 wives, one after the other, it tore them to bits because the knives. Jesus Christ. That dirty big bastard. Jesus Christ. Would you like me to look after it for a couple of months? He says, get to the back of the queue. The Duchess walked into the butcher's shop. She said, I'd like an Aylesbury duck. The wee fella put a duck on the counter. She shoved her fingers up its backside and said, that's not an Aylesbury duck. That's a Sussex duck. Now get me a bloody Aylesbury duck. So the wee fella went down to the manager. He said, this is very embarrassing. There's a woman up there, and every time I put a duck on the counter, she's shoving her fingers up the duck selection box. And there's women walking out of the shop disgusted. He said, that's the Duchess. She's an expert in ornithology. She knows where every duck in Britain comes from, and she always prefers the Aylesbury duck. He said, that's one. He said, well, give her that one. He put the duck on the counter. She shoved her fingers up its ass and said, yes, that's an Aylesbury duck. You're an apprentice butcher, and you don't know the difference between an Aylesbury duck and any other duck. Where the hell do you come from? He said, here, you're the expert. That's a cracker, isn't it? Murphy said to me, pal Mick, when you go to England, don't be asking for Guinness so they'll know you're a paddy straight away. Ask for lager beer. Them Englishmen drink lager. Murphy gets off the Liverpool boat, walks into the pub and said, Give me the pint of lager, sir. Well, I said, do you want any lime? He said, yes, thank you. 2 shovelfuls. Now, one of the hardest things to do in show business when you're touring about all over the country or all over the world like I do, Australia, South Africa, New Zealand, Canada, you name it, I've been there telling gags. The hardest thing to do is to try and get suitable lodgings. 25 years ago, I was in a wee place in Sutton doing a show, and I was recommended lodgings in a beautiful 29-bedroom semi-detached slum. I knew it was semi-detached because it was moving away from the rest of the street. I walked up to the door and there was a lovely old Irish lady came to the door. I'll never forget her, 74 years old. Big long green dress, beautiful white hair, and one of the softest Irish accents I've ever heard. And she said to me, "Who want the dirty big fat ugly Irish bastard?" I said, "Less of the fat." "What the hell do you want?" I said, "I'd like to stop here." She said, "Well, stop there," and slammed the bloody door in my face. I said, "How much is it to stay a week?" She said, "I don't know, nobody ever stayed a week. But for you it'll be 7 guineas. I said, "I'll pay that with pleasure." She said, "With pleasure is 12 quid. She says, "Do you mind making your own bed?" I said, "Not at all." She said, "With the hammer and nails in the corner." She said, "Come into the dining room. I prepared a running buffet. Epsom salt sandwiches." I said, "Those are nice glasses you're wearing." She says, "I got those from the optimist." I said, "You mean the optician?" She said, "No, the optimist. He thinks he's getting paid for them." I called her into the dining room. I said, "Pardon me, madam, there's a fly swimming in the soup." She said, "Then you've too much soup, it should be paddling." She says, "How did you find your steak?" I said, "Under a chip." I said, "Have you any asparagus tips?" She said, "Judd Benson and Hedges and Embassy." I said, "There's a bloody big crack in that plate." She said, "That's your bacon." And I said, "There's a worm in that pie." She said, "It's fat." I said, "I know, it's eating all the bloody beef." I said, "Well, at least the meat's tender." She said, "It ought to be. The dog's been chewing an hour and a half." I was going up to the bathroom. She says, "Have you a good memory for faces?" She says, "Have you a good memory for faces?" I said, "Yes, why?" She said, "There's no mirror up there for shaving." But her husband was a nice fella. He was lying in bed looking for work. He got a card from the dole to go about a job and he brought it to the police. He said somebody'd sent him a threatening letter. He'd been so long on the dole he thought a P45 with a revolver. I called her into the bedroom. It was the smallest bedroom I've ever been in my life. I put the key in the door and broke the window. I said, "I couldn't sleep in that bed last night. There was a dead flea in the bed." She says, "A dead flea will do you no harm." I said, "I know that, but there was 40,000 came to the funeral." She said, "This is a 5-star hotel." I said, "I know, I counted them through the bloody slits in the roof." And I said, "The cockroaches are jumping from the wardrobe onto the bed like a springboard." She said, "If you pull the bed away from the wall, they'll miss it." I said, "I'd done that and the cockroaches kept pulling it back." And I said, "I'd like to talk to you about the ceiling in my bedroom." She says, "What about it?" I said, "I'd like one." She said, "We needn't worry because the people upstairs won't walk about much. But they'll drop in now and again. And they're a funny way of dividing the chicken." She said to this fellow, "What football team do you support?" He said, "Scunthorpe." She gave him a left leg. She said to the fellow, "What team do you support?" He said, "Cleethorpe." She gave him a right leg. She said to me, "What team do you support?" I said, "Arsenal, but I'm not hungry." Now, at this particular point of the show, I would normally sing a song, but you've been such a lovely audience, why should I do that? But it was a song from my new 12-inch record, which unfortunately has never been issued. Some bloody idiot put a 13-inch hole in. But it's a song I've had the privilege and pleasure of singing in front of the Duke of Edinburgh and the Prince of Wales and 2 or 3 other well-known English pubs. Now, the song was actually written by 2 local boys from Sutton, George Novak and Peter Good. and it's on the recording label of No Feckin' Good. Now, they were all good singers in our family. They had to be. There was no lock in the lavatory door. And everybody had a long left leg. You ever tried to hold the door closed like that? I done it in Blackpool last week and the door opened out. Actually, I should have read you this earlier on. It's a letter from a mother. She says, "Dear Frank, since you've left home, your father has become a sex maniac and tries to make love to me every opportunity he gets. Please excuse the wobbly writing. I have put 3 socks in this parcel. As you said in your last letter, you'd grown another foot." Your Uncle George had a narrow escape yesterday when he fell off a scaffold, and he would have broken both his legs, only for the rope round his neck. Somebody threw a petrol bomb at your Uncle Willie, and he drank it. Your daddy and I went to the sauna bath last night, stripped off all our clothes, and when the steam cleared, we were in a fish and chip shop. They've discovered a woman in India with 5 legs, and your granddad said her knickers must fit her like a glove. Mr. McGonigal, who lives next door and who's been on the methylated spirits for 30 years, died last month. He was cremated last Tuesday. He burned for 4 days. Willie O'Hara said, if you file the edges of 50p pieces, you can use them as 10p's. The English duck hunting team beat the Irish duck hunting team last week 667 ducks to 0. The Irish duck hunting team have found out what was wrong. They're not throwing the dogs up high enough. I am sending on your new overcoat as it's going to be cold in England this winter. In order to save money on the postage, I have cut off the brass buttons. You'll find them in the top left-hand pocket. Your Aunt Lily, who's been on iron tablets for the last 12 years, died a fortnight ago. We didn't bury her, but got 6 quid for her in the scrapyard. The IRA have blown a hole 75 foot deep, and the police are looking into it. The explosion blew Lily and Harry O'Hagan out the front room window. It's the first time they've been out together for 40 years. The little man who lives at the corner of the street and has no arms and no legs won first prize at the fancy dress ball last night. He put a piece of string through his ass and went as a conker. Sorry about that. Your grandmother, who has been bedridden for 35 years, took a feed of Epsom salts yesterday. She came down the stairs for the first time today. The funeral was at 2 o'clock. Your Uncle Joe drank a bottle of varnish and had a horrible death, but a lovely finish. The chemist shop at the corner has been broken into, and the thieves have taken everything with the exception of contraceptives and Brill cream. The police are on the lookout for a bald-headed Catholic. I would have put £2 in this letter, only I have sealed the envelope. Your brother Sammy, who has 2 wooden legs, was fire watching last night when the building went on fire. The brigade came out and saved the building, but Sammy was burnt to the ground. Just imagine him going down, can you? The insurance company wouldn't pay out as they said he hadn't a leg to stand on. He was fined £35 for arson. Your Aunt Harriet thanks you for the wonderful tin of ointment you've sent her home for her pains. After one box of this wonderful ointment, she was able to go down to the little shop at the corner for her errands. Please send on another box, as she wants to come back home again. Now, normally I dash out there, but I don't do it tonight. Because I stopped dashing out. Every time I go out and wait for the applause to come back, nobody applauds. Done it 3 weeks ago in Aberdeen. When I come back, the place was a supermarket. You know that one? Murphy walks into the supermarket. He said, "Give us a pound of Irish bacon, please." Woman says, "Lean back." He said, "Right you are." If my wife knew I was here about murder, she thinks I'm in jail. My wife talks through her nose. Her mouth's worn out. I bought her a lovely chair for Christmas and I can't get her to plug it in. A fellow said to me the other day, "My wife's an angel." I said, "Christ, you're lucky mine's still alive." Did you ever have one of those days when nothing goes right? I brought the wife round to Madame Tussauds, the waxworks. Then I brought her into the Chamber of Horrors. And the attendant came up to me and says, "Tell your missus to keep moving, we're stock taking." Something happened to me last week. You know, one of those days, I bought a suit with 2 pair of trousers and burned a hole in the jacket. And I bought a Dalmatian dog, took it home and washed it, and the bloody spots come on. Anybody want to buy a whippet? Of course, my father was a doctor, you know. My father was an unlucky doctor. He discovered a cure, and there was no disease for it. And he died of the cure. I had a brother had B.O. It was so bad he rang up the Samaritans and they hung up. Do you know the Samaritans' telephone number in Ireland is ex-directory? I had a brother try to commit suicide. He put a rope round his neck and jumped off the banisters. Rope was too long. He broke both his bloody legs. And before I came down, I went into a wee Indian restaurant and I asked for a cheese sandwich and something. And I could see him away up the back and he was making me the sandwich and he was scratching his bum. And I was bloody annoyed. I said, "Ahmed, Mohammed, Sean." He said, what are you wanting, please? I said, "Have you an itchy ass?" He said, "Only what's on the menu." I said, "I'll have it with chips." I said, "Well, give me a cup of coffee, a cream bun, and 2 lumps of sugar." Well, he pulls out these spotless white plastic tongs. Lifts a cream bun with the tongs, puts it in the plate, lifts the plate beside me with the tongs. Lifts the cup with the tongs, puts it in the saucer, lifts the cup and saucer beside me with the tongs, pours in the coffee, drops in 2 lumps of sugar, stirs it with the white tongs, cleans them, puts in a plastic container, and sticks them in his pocket. I said, "Now that is the proper way to serve people. That was spotlessly clean." He said, "But please tell all your friends come any time. All hygiene. Nothing touched by hand, all spotless." I said, "I've noticed that." But as he was walking away, he's only a young lad, but I said, "Come here, son, come here. You may not have noticed this, but if you look down, there's a big length of string hanging out of your trousers. Out of his fly, a big long string." He said, "All hygiene, nothing touched by the hand." I said, when I go to the gents, touch nothing with the hand. Just pull down the zip and lift the string." I said, "Well, how do you get it back in again?" He said, "You know those plastic tongs of the grave." All right, thank you all.